do this again. Hello, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of the Raad Life. We are all obviously aware that we're going through a crisis. We're having downtimes. We want to make sure that people have as much reference to good messaging and good examples. And I can't imagine of somebody who is more about we are all in this together, and that basically lives the real meaning of that word on a daily basis, especially in Orange County, other than this gentleman that I've known for a number of years, and he really exemplifies this. So without further ado, I want to bring on Charles Antis, CEO and founder of Antis Roofing, and I want to basically just spend a little time with him and see what's going on, because he is always out there. He's always giving. His passion for giving is really unparalleled in my world. It's not to say he's very humble too, so he's going to be very uncomfortable when he hears this later, but that's why he's in the green room. So let me bring him on right now. And Charles, are you there?
Hello.
Of course you're there. You're always there for people. So thanks for being there for me today.
Hey, excited to be here in the Raad Life.
Thanks, man. I was just saying, and you're going to hear it anyway. So I said, listen, this guy really exemplifies, especially in Orange County, truly walking the walk about we're all in this together. We're all there for one another. You do it on a daily basis. I think your leadership, especially at the company and anybody who you touch, really that gets translated to them. That's infectious, to use the word in a positive manner right now. And really, I can see you already kind of like getting uncomfortable behind your glasses. There's also a certain level of humility. And I said that in the green room, when you were in the green room, I said, he's going to hear this. He's going to feel really uncomfortable because there's a humility. And in my very first episode a week ago was with a gentleman that we both know, Jay Barbuda from the Center of Leadership at Cal State Fullerton. And we were talking exactly about that, you know, in times of crisis, more so amplified. The leadership sometimes rises from places that you don't expect it, and people step up and are there for each other. You do this on a daily basis, 365 days a year, and there has to be a layer of humility, and it reflects. So, you know, kudos for being out there, Charles. I'm really proud to know you, and thank you. Seriously. I mean, on every level. Okay, and let's get this thing out of the way, because if I had to guess, okay, you probably have a matching pair of these under your desk right now. You have a matching pair of these?
Pull up. Actually, this morning I put on a brand new pair because I couldn't find my 28 pair. We have a lot of other priorities right now, and I haven't put my sock bin in the wash. And so I put a brand new pair on. And so you're like me, and I love it that you do that, because you're showing that you, like me, think it is unimaginable to ignore sick children, even at a time like this. And you know that roofers across the country, over 200 companies, are keeping all of the Ronald McDonald House families safe, dry, and close now. Even now, we're going on risk because we can do that essential service today when it's necessary. So when you wear those socks, the whole roofing industry salutes you, Rad. So thank you.
Well, I'll salute you back, my friend. So, you know, you're involved with Ronald McDonald House. You've been doing a lot of interviews in the last week, and kudos to everybody that gets you on the air, because I think your message is really important right now, especially. So
thank you.
I want you to take a minute, give people a little bit of background that don't know you. And if you don't know Charles, what the heck were you doing? You're living under a rock in Orange County. But basically, give them a little background, because I think your story is also very, very significant, like how you got into this. You have a very successful company. You have a lot, you know, you got a lot of things going on, and we'll talk about the blood drive that you guys are organizing for Monday in a minute. But talk about the background a little bit. But I also really want to know what makes you tick. Like when you wake up in the morning, what makes you tick? Because that's also part of it. That's maybe more personal. And I don't want to push you beyond the comfort level, but as much as you want to share on that, I would love to hear it.
Well, I'm trying to think how to curve this so how all the stories line up. But I'm going to try something to, you know, if you really want to know what makes me tick and what we're doing and how I lead, then I would look at it from the 30,000 foot view first. I was born and raised in a mountain town, a logging town called Myrtle Creek, Oregon. Raised in a pretty religious home, Mormon, and I'm no longer Mormon. I am a foreman. But you know, I respect my parents' religion
Yeah.
very much, as I do all religions, and I look at religions like languages, and so I don't take offense. It's just they're saying the same thing, they just don't realize it. And so I'm from that small town, religious. Mormons weren't really popular with other Christian religions, and I had to defend that. You know, that's kind of where I started. But then I go on the Mormon mission and have I don't want to go, but you need to go. And part of me wants to go
Right.
because I'm a true believing Mormon at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
so that ended up being a monumental shift looking back. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But then I come back, I end up in California. I want to sell something that I was recruited to sell. And I found out that a client that we sold to accused me of fraud, that I ripped them off. And I looked into it. And it broke my heart. I was telling this story yesterday and I started crying. And I'd never cried when I told that story before, but I was humiliated when I found out that the product I was selling wasn't being delivered to the client, and I quit. And I got into roofing because I was a laborer from Oregon, and the only thing that I knew I could do was work with my hands, and I found a roofing job in Oregon. But if you want to know what makes me tick, I'm going to go back up. So I'm telling this story in a different way, to my Mormon mission. Because, you know, like I said, if you're Mormon and you grow up, you go on a mission and you just create a cloud over you. You know, you have a hard time dating other Mormon people. And so I went on a Mormon mission, and part of me wanted to go, like I said, but I didn't want to go because I wasn't service oriented. I am today. And that's why I'm telling the story, to say maybe how I got there. But I was not service oriented, because service to me was pain. It was not playing on a Saturday. It was instead going to the mountains and piling brush, working in the woods again. Or it was helping somebody move, like every weekend. It's like, you know, it was like, I didn't like it. It was nice, but I didn't like it. It didn't serve, it didn't suit me. So I go on my Mormon mission to Thailand. And there was, you know, some service there was awesome, like teaching English. Like, this is great. It's easy. I'm popular here, and I'm an expert at English. That was great. But one day I'm in my there were 6 or 8 Mormon missionaries, all of us 19 to 21-year-old male, mostly American missionaries in Thailand, having this culture shock, which is kind of awesome and scary. And they come in one day and they go, "Hey, Elder Antis," because that's what they call you there. "Hey, we're going to an orphanage today." And I go, "Oh," and then, you know, it sounds like that old, not so fun service thing. Yeah, well, you know, it's smelly, it's really hot and sweaty, and they mix the physically and mentally handicapped children. And so don't get your hopes up. And so, well, I went there not expecting anything, and I get directed into this room that I would say it's 20 by 20. It's hot. There's no light in there. There's light going through the windows, but no electric light. And I go in by myself, which is unusual. Usually you're with your other elder companion, but I go inside this room, and all of a sudden this little girl looks at me from the floor, and I just was instantly drawn to her. She looked like she was about 8 or 9 years old, and she had clown cheeks. It was about 11 a.m. Somebody before her nap must have painted clown cheeks on her right here. And so she just looked up, and she had these really long arms, and she put them up like this. And instantly my spirits were lifted, and I went toward this little girl to lift her up because she was beautiful and she was smiling at me. And that, you know, I didn't speak Thai well yet, but I spoke this, and I went to grab her, and my joy was struck into shock because she didn't weigh what I thought she would weigh. She weighed about, 12 pounds, and I thought she would weigh at least 35 or 40. And so I was kind of scared, and I went to this, and then I didn't know what to do. So I compare it to when your neighbor gives you your child back before this time we're in now, and you want to hold that child, but you don't want to. So you kind of bounce off. And I grabbed her. I didn't know what to do. So I kind of bounced, and I went to pull her up, and then I felt her fingers dig into me. And it kind of shocked me a little bit. I didn't feel anything other than maybe shock still. And then after about what seemed like 30 seconds, I bounced again. And this time when I bounced her off, 2 things happened. Her arms settled around me. Her fingers dug deep into my back. And I felt, and I saw her face just light up and smile. And it was so disarming in a way. I looking back now, let go of that shock and settled in, because I just remember like not being able to speak Thai yet. I hadn't been there in Thailand very long, and I was 19 years old, and her, not really speaking any English, and yet, with stuff on the wall and pointing, we communicated.
Human
And
kindness is a universal language, my friend.
well, yeah, but I didn't know that yet. This is
Yeah, I know. I know.
this is that awakening moment,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps, looking back. And so something happened. The best way I describe it, Rad, and the best way I've ever been able to describe it, even though this is a silly story that doesn't make sense, is I grew up in Oregon in this little town, and Grandma lived in a simple little home, and she cooked on a wooden stove. And I remember she'd have a pot and she'd stir it with this big wooden ladle. And it's like Grandma was stirring something up inside me that I'd never felt before. I'd never felt connected, a sense of purpose, a sense of oneness. I don't know if that's kind of the word, but suddenly life made a little more sense looking back. Now, at the time, I couldn't contextualize this yet, but I like to tell that story because everything changed. And the cool thing is all of a sudden that elder that said, the smelly orphanage elder comes back in, and he says, "Elder Antis, it's time to go." And I looked down, and 4 hours had passed that I held this girl. And it was life changing. And, I got to see her a few more times, and looking back, that's when it was something awoke in me that I can be fulfilled through another human being doing something to lift each other. And, it took a while again to get to where we are now, but that's a substantial story. And I think that if we reflect on our stories, and I'm a storyteller,
Yeah.
the moment something happens that shifts my mindset, I want to tell that story and give it to you. And perhaps it can shift your mindset too, not necessarily to where mine is, but to a more self-aware, self-actualized version of you. And then we can collaborate, and together we can do way more good. And that's my mindset for my company. I'm not the best leader. I'm all over the place, but my intent is to be there for every employee. One of the cool things about what's going on right now is it's every day. I woke up at 3:00 this morning, but you know what I do when I wake up at 3 now? I don't go, "Oh no, I'm not going to sleep." I go, "Oh, this is going to be a really beautiful morning. I'm going to have a lot of time to myself, and I'm going to see life a little bit differently by going through this." And I don't mourn lost sleep. I used to mourn lost sleep, and now I go with it. So it's a mindset shift. But right now in the moment, I could be really scared. Instead, I flip this. So I could be looking at, I can tell you this, in this company, I know all these other companies are meeting and huddling, and they have to. And I know we're lucky to have work. We have rain coming right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that my senior team and I refuse to do, we won't do it, is we're not looking at our people and looking at making cuts. We've prepared for a drought. We financially prepared for a drought. We're looking at this like a drought, and we are all in. And that's how we see it. And the reason we do that is this. And this is where I get a little out there, but try to stay with me. It's like thoughts become words, words become actions, actions become things that are done. If I start planning to cut my people, then I will cut my people. If I start planning to thrive and be super adaptive and be curious and find a way to thrive, then I have a chance of finding a way of being curious, adaptive, and thriving in the moment. And so that's my mindset. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep my mindset there. And I will lead my executive team to have that. And I'm not bragging that I do that so well, because I don't. So my fear shows sometimes, but I don't. To my senior team, I who I communicate with the most, I constantly remind them of how fortunate we are, and they are high performers, by the way, what they are doing and how we're dividing and conquering and learning and growing. And we've never worked so hard, and yet we are happy because we are curious enough to find some discoveries in the moment that happy is a mindset. I can choose to be fearful, or I can choose. I have a roof over my head, and I have food. I have basic food and shelter. I have no reason. I can choose to be insane right now in my head, and I've done that before. I've been that seagull boss, flapping my wings, squawking and shitting all over everybody in the the guise of trying to help them. But I don't do that anymore. And if I do, I'm not perfect. I apologize for it. And I say, I'm
You're
sorry.
human. That's part
Yeah.
of the part of the journey. That
Sorry, I
takes,
kind of swam
yeah.
off. I kind of swam off course there. You got to watch me.
No, you didn't swim off course at all, actually. And I appreciate you sharing the you know, being on a mission as a Mormon mission, which is very much a rite of passage for Mormons. And I'm actually,
yeah, and I'm so glad I did it. But I want to say again, I'm no longer Mormon.
yeah.
And I just like to know, like, because sometimes people mistake me that, oh, you're Mormon. And no, I'm not, but I'm really friendly. My parents are, you know, it's like, I'm glad I was raised that way. I'm glad the insights, that's not who I am.
Listen, you went there, so I will, you know, in all
Right.
fairness, I'll go there too, right? So my mom is Catholic, my father is Greek Orthodox. I grew up in a Muslim country, went to school in Europe, and then came to the United States. I am very much like you. When you said they all speak the same language, you just speak it differently, I completely agree. There's faith, and there's belief, and there's spirituality, and there's, you know, surrender, and all those things, and I believe in them wholeheartedly, like I think you do. And I just mentioned that only because where I was going with it is I also believe in happy accidents. I also believe in being open to receive. And what you experienced in Thailand, unbeknownst to you at the moment, was exactly a similar experience. Now you looking back, gathered what happened. And if I had to guess right now where you're at, you probably have a much shorter time span between when you experience something and you actually get what you just went through. Right?
That's really a cool context. Yes, I've never thought of that. Yes, I mean, we're talking 2 decades, a long time ago. Now, I look at every day as a story. You know, this is silly, but it's not. One of the things I said to my twins, Charlie and Gracie, who are 5 this morning, is it's very similar almost every day. And, you know, like, hey, what is today? And I said this to Gracie, and Gracie looked at me when I saw her upstairs when she woke up, and she said, Daddy, it's the best day ever. And I looked at my son downstairs. I asked him, you know, what is today? And he said, Daddy, it's the best day ever. It's insane.
It's a great legacy, Charles.
It's insane what happens when you choose to look through those lenses. And I think it made me cry right there. And I apologize, but it made me cry because my kids, you know, kids are so pure, and we don't mean to, but we sort of just rub it out of them. And my kids, I see what they're doing, and it's beautiful. And I just want to enhance that. And you know, having 5-year-old twins is the biggest gift of all, because if you listen to me, I'm talking like a kid right now, and I don't realize it, but I think when I got married again, it was like, I thought, oh my God, I'm 50 getting married. I'm going to have kids. And what am I doing? Is this right? It was the hardest choice in my life. Oh, am I the lucky one? I have these 2 little amazing creators and teachers in my home. And everybody that knows my wife or follows her on social media or knows my kids, it's like, I do. They're just well-behaved and beautiful kids. Not that I'm grading them that way. They're just, you know what? They're emotionally intelligent for 5-year-old kids. They love themselves, and they see life through nature and care of animals, and through, you know, just better lenses. And they don't compare each other. They do compare themselves to each other, but they're not comparing themselves to other kids. And that's what I live for, is to teach people to, you know, realize their course is perfect. And because of it, they see things others can't see. And with it, they can do so much. And so be curious and realize that your path, all of the things that happen to you, and it's easy for me to say I haven't had that rough a life, but I've done some really stupid stuff in my life, Brad. And you know what? I don't regret anything anymore. Now it's a journey. My life is perfect. And if I look at it like that, I can be curious, and I can be a beacon to those that have a similar path. And I want to give everybody that awakening where they, you know, when somebody feels unacknowledged and can't see themselves higher, they get stuck. If you can give them that gift of, oh my God, look what happened to me, and look what's happening to you. And they go, oh, wow, I can do it. I can do that. Then their lives are forever changed, and together we're able to do so much more. I never saw servitude at the level that I serve today as a possibility for me. I didn't know I was doing this, but I saw myself as less than you, because I compared myself to you. You have a college degree. I dropped out. you know, or you have this, I don't, you know, and I always compared myself, and something happened where I just don't do that anymore. I compare myself to myself, and I'm the best version of myself I've ever been. And that is such a gift. I want to give that to everybody. And that's what I sort of set out to do. In addition to helping companies work with corporate social responsibility and do more good for nonprofits, what really fascinates me is an awakening passion in people for social good. That's what is the most awesome thing for me.
The cool combination too, Charles, because I mean, I went and did a little bit of digging. I'm like you. I kind of let the experience unfold. I really want to be surprised, learn, let things kind of a bit happen. I don't prep a lot, but I prep enough to be, competent and be able to be there. I went and looked at some stuff, and I think a couple of things that struck me about for example, your company website and some of the, the advertising that people see on your trucks and stuff. There is a childlike wonder that permeates through a very proficient expertise. You chose to do your website where it was almost cartoonish, and it's accessible and approachable, and yet at the same time there's sort of a superhero kind of underlayer to it. There is a be there for other people, which is very much a credo of anybody who's ever picked up a comic book, right? I mean, that you're always there for we're all in this together, and I'm there to champion and look out for people. And you live that credo. But the other thing that's interesting is that you also on there have the Antis Foundation, and you have sort of that commitment to community, and it's walking the talk. And it's really nice to see that. I sometimes think, that I'm kind of odd for having that, not having lost that sort of childhood wonder. And I'm so happy for you that you get to also again now see it through your children, because that's the filter you get to basically enjoy every day. That's your personal filter to the world at first thing in the morning. Let's talk a bit, if you don't mind. I want to talk about the foundation just a little bit, and then I also want to talk about the blood drive that you guys got going on this coming Monday. So tell me about the foundation. How did that come about? I mean, obviously you're involved in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, I'll tell a quick journey. We could never let, one of the things, a really 20-second version of a story I tell more than all the time is I showed up at a home 30 years ago, right when I started my business. It was just me. And when the lady opened the door, I was hit with mildew, and then the beautiful little 6-year-old girl pulls me in, and she pulls me into her room to show off a My Little Pony poster, and I look down and I see mold, and I didn't have the money, and I tried to get out. When the mom walked in, I said, I'm going to take care of your roof. And I couldn't take that back. And I was scared, and I didn't know if I could. And we did. We were able to take care of that roof. And it was crazy. I did it. I mean, I called 6 volunteers. I went to Home Depot. I got some crude roofing materials. We kept that family dry. And we were sort of struck with this condition that we could never let anybody have a leaky roof just because they didn't have the money to pay.
Right.
And that's why now our logo says keeping families safe and dry. But it wasn't organized until about 10 years ago when Habitat called, or 11 years ago, and said, will we donate a roof? And it was easy to say yes. And then we donated every roof since. And so that's what's happened. We've gotten organized. And I didn't know how to talk about it. In fact, you don't talk about your giving. But I get it now. You do. Because if you don't talk about it, it can't grow. But you've got to talk about it.
It cannot inspire people. Like when you're telling the story, there's purpose, different purposes for telling story, right? There are people, I mean, especially these days where everything is story branding and everything is basically purpose driven for financial gain or maybe like business development. The spirit that you tell your stories with, Charles, is inspiration. It's telling it because it is a message that could basically encourage somebody else. It could ignite some giving spirit in somebody. That's that humility that really, like, I'm really, really honored to know you, because when you tell your stories, and I encourage you to tell them as much as you want. I mean, even if it's repetitive as heck, and you tell that story about the blonde little child and the My Little Pony poster all the time. And you know what? You should never stop telling that story. You inspire people when you do that. They may not even realize it at the moment, but I mean, I tell people all the time, go volunteer. I was involved with Habitat, but I was more involved with Rebuilding Together, Orange County, when they were around, right? And we were, our focus was veterans and seniors in this country where we are blessed to live. for anybody to not have, and I went into a trailer one time. There was a lady that was in her 80s that took care of her invalid daughter that was in her 50s. They had a torn carpet on the ramp. She couldn't roll up the daughter's wheelchair to get in there. We scrubbed down the walls. They hadn't had running hot water for 6 months. And they were barely making it on anything to basically, I think they had like $100 left every month from what they got from whatever it is, assistance. I totally can relate when you say you walked in there and you could not leave that. And more importantly, not the situation, but them. You could not leave people better than you could find them. Like if
that's that dad parent thing. My parents really instilled in me this, you have to do the right thing. I mean, it was the right thing all the time. And it didn't, they didn't make it sexy. They didn't make it look fun, but they did teach me to do it. And I thank goodness I kind of steered back to that. I'm not saying I was always perfect, but
I can totally relate to that. When you're learning this, God, this is a pain in the ass. I don't really want to do this. Why am I not outside playing with my friends? What do you mean do the right thing? What about the right thing for me? But those seeds are planted. And
the thing that's really powerful though is, and I think that I need to explain this because a lot of people say they see me and some won't believe me, or they'll say it's a gimmick or whatever. And I've learned to realize that they actually help me. They help others to pay attention. But it's like, I forgot where I was going with that because I started thinking about myself. The ego got involved there. But it's what I was going to say. It's like it was, and it's hard to talk about it because you feel like you're going to be called a fraud. But if you're really doing it, talk about it. If you're not really doing it, everyone will know today. And so it's just interesting how that is. The authenticity piece is so important today. But here's the part I want to say: if you're really doing it, talk about it. It's not because I have this personality. It's because I have practiced talking about it, and it is part of my personality. But it's compassion. This compassion, there's another word I want to use, compassion, this, caring for others. It's like a muscle. Empathy, that's what empathy is, a muscle that grows in you. And I didn't know that. It's like I used to bench press a lot of weight. It was a little silly. I was taking creatine, all these things would help in the store, and I was at 40 bench pressing like 350 pounds, and I don't do that anymore. Thank goodness I just have a healthier body that way. But man, my empathy muscle is bench pressing 350 pounds. And it's only because I stay and I hang around. You see me in board meetings, and I've seen you in board meetings. I'm on a dozen boards. I'm in boardrooms and committees every day almost. And I sit next to people that have what I want. They have what I want. They want to make the world a better place. And look at how much better I can talk about that today than I used to. Look at how much better I can lead that. And look at how much better we as a team actually deliver that. Like you said, I'm going to skip way ahead. The Antis Foundation, I'm sitting inside 6,000 square feet that we've cleared because Monday, this is going to be next business day. We are opening up the first of a series of drives with the American Red Cross, because the LA Basin, we're 10,000 units short. And I can't imagine that. I haven't seen that in a while, but we're plugged in there. We do the drives. Susan DeGrassi's on the board there. And it's an honor. I am so honored that we're able to take something at a relatively low cost, but because we're plugged in, do this. And what this does for us is it lets our people remember why we're here, to keep families safe and dry. And right now it's food shortage, it's security. We're donating risks, we're donating time and money, and we're taking some food a little bit where we can. That's not where we spend a ton of our time. I don't want to mislead anybody, but I've spent some time there. But we're also organizing and giving blood. And I'm so proud of this. And what this does is it reminds our partners why we're here. And it reminds our partners why our roofs are better. I'm not saying that to disparage any other roofing company. I'm saying that roofing companies have an attrition rate before COVID-19 of 54%. More than half of the employees will not be there. Antis, the last 2 years we tracked, it won't be that this next year with what's going on. We're retaining our employees, but just in the last last month or so, it's been a transition. But we hang on to our employees, and it results in quality. It results in purpose. It results in us For the
Well, it's
reasons I told you earlier, we plan on success. And also, we're really prepared for this. We're really prepared for COVID because the roofing industry is so topsy-turvy. We have to do sophisticated tax planning strategies that cost a lot of money in previous years, but they allow us to take Goodyear money and put it into like the donor advised fund, which is the Antis Foundation. And we put that money into that fund. And what that does is last year's profit with pre-tax is now all available to give. And this year, you know, I didn't go into this year wanting to give more. And this COVID-19 started, we're going to have to hold more. But no, for corporations that can give are going to give. And we're going to get there. We're transitioning right now. And you know me, I talk live in the moment. I have to talk live out this. I have to talk about doing the right thing all the time, inside and outside, because I want the gun to my head to do the right thing. Because the stories of my life tell me that if you err on the side of generosity with all of your stakeholders, you'll thrive. And all it takes to do that is intent. And my intent is to do right by every client, but let's back up, is to do right by every employee, by every client, by every supply chain, and by every nonprofit that we're partnered with. And we're partnered with a lot of nonprofits, and you know that. I didn't mean to get on that soapbox.
No. It's not a soapbox, and I think it's great because it lends me to another question, Charles. I mean, I know from personal drain when you are in this zone, and there's nothing more rewarding. Okay. And it almost sometimes feels selfish that you're being rewarded so much. And I totally get that sense that you're talking about. Right. And that sense of, you know, you kind of almost have to constantly question yourself, like, is my heart in the right place? Am I doing this for the right reason? And I think that's healthy because it keeps you honest and authentic and true. Right. And that comes across to everybody you touch. Right. I think your commitment is to your employees, to yourself, to everything you're involved in, to your kids. But I think it's anybody that you interact with, that spirit and commitment goes through. What happens? Well, I shouldn't say what happens. How do you deal? Because there's a drain that comes with this. Like being in this zone, there's a passion and a reward, but there's also moments when you feel like you're depleted. So for those who are out there that we are encouraging to basically take this mantle, to basically follow that sense of purpose, that spirit of service, that life of giving, especially in a hard time like this, what do you do to basically recharge your battery so that you can be there the next day in what you know is your purpose in doing this?
Well, so a lot of us right now more than ever, I think there's a choir of people that believe that we can make the world a better place, and the access to talk about it is out there. And we're doing it right now. And so I'll be honest with you, I'm all in on this. And it started when I woke up at 3-something this morning. This was the first thing on my mind. The most important thing was for me to be present, 100% present, and understand the audience, to be authentic and tell the truth no matter what. And there's always a way you can tell the truth and not injure anybody, and to do that, and to be all inclusive in the message, and to try to bring solution. And again, it's thoughts become things, thoughts become words, words become actions, that become things. So if I intend to, as I did this morning, I'll explain how I start that. But if I intend to awaken people today, and I intend to ignite passion today, and I intend to lift people in wakes and in ripples that will last forever, which is how I put that out there, and I'll tell you how in a minute, then what happens when I do this is I'm drained a little bit, because this is the most important thing, because my employees are listening to this, and I love my employees. I don't tell them that, but I can say it here. I love my employees, and this gives me, and if my external stakeholders, I love many of them, and I love the concept of my mind of who I think they are and who they show me they are. But the way I do that, and I just want to acknowledge all of us that are trying to do that. Yes, it's draining, but it is so fulfilling, as you mentioned. Right. But I have a very specific course that has worked so well, and I've gone through what's felt like much bigger things than this, and that's not accurate in many ways, but I've gone through some tough times and yet had a great day every day through it. I've gone through times that were extremely uncertain, And yet I have a mentality that starts the day that seems impossible, but it is, this just may be the best day of my life. This just may be the best day of my life. And I get there this way. I'm sorry I built that up so much. I wake up early. I want to be the first one up in my house, and I realize everybody can't be the first one up in their house, but it serves me to do that. I get up usually by 4:30, and the first thing I do when I get up is I look at something that will lift me, just in case I woke up in one of those mind traps, that mind trap that says, I must hang on to everything or it will be gone, which sometimes comes over me when I'm up. And I can flip that into, I don't know quite what these words mean, but this is a magical day of creation or something like that. I mean, that's how I'll say it here in California. And I say it a little differently maybe when I'm speaking somewhere else, but that's what I'm able to do. And I do that by filling up right away. I have this daily email I get, and there's a lot of things like this, but I want to qualify it. And a daily email, it's from theuniversetalks.com, tut.com. It's a free daily email.
I get the same one in the morning, by the way. Yeah.
It's because you, me, Susan Kenny connected that. She gave that to you probably, or you gave it to
She
her.
did. Susan Kenny, shout out. Yes, she did that. She gave that
Susan
to me.
Kenny. Yeah, so her name comes up in a lot of stories. So good stories doing good. And so I look at that thought, and this morning's thought was powerful. And I'm not going to be able to repeat it, but it's something to the extent that we thoughts become things, choose good ones. That's pretty much where I got that whole thing that I say. And once that does, and by the way, that spiritual thought that you think you're getting, if there's any punishment in there, if there's like, go work harder than everybody else, efficiency, that's not a spiritual thought. That's not lifting you up. That might be a good discipline that you need to know back here, but that's not what you want to fill your brain with. Fill your brain with, you want to hear something powerful? This is a great thing. Well, one of the thoughts from tut.com one day said this. It said, Charles, whenever you're speaking to another human being, either living or dead, in your mind or in person or on the phone, always speak to their highest self. I mean, a mic drop is kind of passe, but mic drop.
If I had one, I would drop it for you right now. Yeah.
It's a powerful thing in it. And I take it even beyond that. I one day saw a coyote that looked like a chupacabra. It was a manged coyote, and it saw me on the trail. This is after I had this thought in my head. And it saw me, and it saw my reaction. When I saw it, I thought it was a monster at first. And it just kind of, and I remember in my mind, faking like here, puppy, beautiful dog, because I didn't want to see it. I wanted to see it higher. And that's silly, but it helps to make my point. So if I don't have like that tut.com that you do, I'll look at something like this. Let me give you one other great thought. And this is Mary Oliver is a poet who passed away last year, but she was arguably the most famous American poet. And one of her most famous poems is not religious, but it's sort of nature spiritual if you can catch up to it. And the reason I like nature spiritual, I just made that up. The reason I like it is it doesn't get caught up in the language divide. It builds all the way to everyone. And so I use nature as a metaphor. And Mary Oliver did too. And Mary Oliver says this. It's butchered a little bit. I don't remember the words. And when I am among the trees, especially the ukes, the oaks and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I'd almost say they save me in daily. I'm so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves, and light flows through their branches. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. That's the message that lifts people, lifts me every day. Now, if I say, Charles, I'm going to get up earlier, you know why? Because I'm going to go to the office, I'm going to work 80 hours. That's how I used to do that. And that's not how I'm going to get through this period, what we're going through. I'm going to get through this COVID-19 pandemic and leading by getting myself right in the morning. So after I do that, I journal, and I use a 5-minute journal, and I write 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 things that will make the day great, and 2 I am. So what I said that would make the day great this morning, I took a picture of it, and I can't look at it because it's in the thing that's recording me.
It's in the phone.
But I wrote down that I'm going to lift up everybody I pass each time I pass them in wakes and in ripples that will last forever. I remember when I wrote that because I write things similar to that every day. And I'm able to do that. If I didn't start writing those things down 3 years ago and reading that tut.com, which gave me inclusive language, then I probably wouldn't be having the experiences that I'm having today. And then I do something that's meditative. And by me, meditation is bike riding, slow swimming. And I don't do hard bike riding or a walk in the nature. I don't go hard exercise anymore. I'm not saying it's not healthy. I'm just saying that's not how I start my day. And in that, I have nature moments where I see something powerful. This morning, this is my nature moment. I walked outside about 4 a.m. I walked to the side of my house in between my neighbor's house, and I heard this sound. It wasn't 4 a.m. This is about 5:30. I apologize. It was early. It was just beginning to get a little bit of light. And I heard this. And it was just a big raven that was, for some reason, went about 10 feet over me. And I was able to just wow that in the way that those wings push that wind. And this is maybe silly for some, but I had a brush with nature. And this happens to me with trees. I'm able to really connect with trees. And I'll say it this way. When I can feel the aliveness in a space or with a tree, then I can feel the aliveness in myself. And so what I'm tapping into every day is the aliveness in myself. And this thing, and basically it takes me to a point, my meditative stance and my meditative way. And, you know, meditation, I don't really get it. I'm not that good at it. But if I kind of do my little Tai Chi meditation.
If it works for you, that's all it needs to do.
Yeah. Then what happens is I get to a point where I'm just able to have oneness with the day. And oneness is this. It means that I can't resent anyone or anything. I have to love on everyone and everything. And what it means is, you know, we're all one. And so if I take out resentment and if I take out that thing that tells me somebody's out to get me, if I always assume positive intent, I have a magic life. And so even in conditions like that are going on right now, I can be optimistic because I know we've got it better than most going into this. And I don't mean that to disparage anybody, but we're prepared. And I know what we're willing to do. We're willing to put our people first. And if you see us, you know, leading in the moment, we're putting ourselves out there. We're being vulnerable. We're saying we're trying this because I know there'll be forgiveness from my employees and the public if we don't nail it right. But you know what? It's a time of over communication. That's why I'm saying yes to everything right now. I need to share what's working. So you'll tell me better way, or you'll get it, because a lot of people are scared right now. I was deer in the headlights 3 weeks ago. I'm just now finding my voice because people are showing me where there's food need, there's blood need, there's shelter need. And this is how we can help our people. We're signing up for every governmental aid thing we can, whether we need it or not. Now we can always decline at the last minute. We're doing everything we can for our employees. We're doing everything we can for our clients and all of our stakeholders. And we're making ourselves vulnerable in the moment. And that's the only way I know it. And that's the way I believe we'll be successful. And so I'm sorry, I'm on soapbox.
No, Charles, it's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm just cognizant of the time because I know you have something else to go to.
Okay.
Why don't you give people the website to the company website, but also let's give the information for the blood drive for Monday. And thank you so much for taking the time. I know you and I have been trying to get this to happen for a number of years, and we finally got it. And I can't think of a better time for your message and for me to be able to share some time. So thank you for uplifting me, my friend, today. It is truly an honor to know you. And I think, you know, your empathy and your generosity are really inspirational. And so thank you for just, you know, recharging me this today too. Let's give the website.
Please connect with me on LinkedIn too. Connect with me on LinkedIn. If we're like-minded, let's connect on LinkedIn. That's where we share our stories. That's how we get it. And how to talk about it, it changes. It's going to change right now. I anticipate that I will transition how I talk about it based on how it's heard. And so let's stay connected on LinkedIn. As far as the blood drive, look on my LinkedIn. You'll see it. And by the way, the last thing I want to say is these socks that you wore, buddy, that's how I met you. We met at the walk. We both walked in the Ronald McDonald House Fashion Show 3 years ago.
Yes, I
And I
remember.
think you have a scarf. I think you have a Ronald McDonald scarf that I want too.
Actually, hold on a second. Don't go anywhere because it's not
Okay.
a scarf. And you know what? I'm gifting it to you right now. But hold on a second.
Okay.
I have this.
Huh? Just kidding. Oh, wow. That's it. You wore that. That's right.
Okay. So I'm gifting you this, Charles. Okay,
Wow, that's a
because
big honor.
I can't think of anybody else I would have wear this, especially with your involvement with the organization. This is a vintage Ronald McDonald fabric that I got when I did the Chairs for Charity, and we did the reading chair that's actually sitting in the Ronald McDonald House in Orange County.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that.
And
yeah.
just a little shout out. Well, he didn't put his stuff in there because it's also made by Dave Welsh at Bespoke.
Yeah.
So this, my friend, I am going to give you on Monday. And
we'll
it
have
is an
Dave
honor.
Make a dozen of them.
You know what? You're on, because we should be. So Thank you so much. Thank you very much for sharing this time with me.
I'm glad we got to do this. This is fun.
Likewise.
Thank you, man.
You take care, my friend. See you on Monday.
All right.
Bye-bye.
See you then. Hey, that was good, man. Thanks.
Thanks, Charles. Yeah, it was great.
All right. I don't know what time it is. Is it about 9?
It's about 9 o'clock. You got like 3 minutes. Okay.
Oh, you're awesome, man. Thank you. We'll see you. All right. Bye-bye.